Hello and welcome to another College Algebra Assistance video. I'm Shay Ortega. I'll be helping you out today, and today we'll be looking at functions, combinations of functions. We've already done the first three problems out of our combinations of functions set. Now we'll be doing the second three. If you remember from our first set, f of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 3, and g of x equals x squared plus 5x minus 5. Our first problem is f of 2 minus g of 4. Now to do that, I'll do basically a combination of something that we've been doing through the entirety of algebra since f of x has been introduced, and then I'll also be combining it with moves that we did from the last video. So what I'll be doing with that, I'll start out first by looking at just f of 2, and I'll write that out. Again, when I have f of 2, I go to my f of x, and I've got f of 2, so 2 is my x value. So what I'll have here is I'll have 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 3, and then I'm going to subtract from that my g of x, which is g of 4. So to do the same thing with g of 4, putting in parentheses, making sure I protect that entire g of 4 expression. So with that, I'll go to my g of x, and I've got g of 4. So I'll go to my g of x and put 4 in for all my x values. So I'll have 4 squared plus 5 times 4 minus 5. Now from here I can kind of just work the problem out, and I'll have 2 squared, which will be 4, plus 2 times 2, which will be 4, minus 3, and then from that I'm going to subtract my entire g of x value, so I need to keep my parentheses there until I do a little bit more work, but I'll have 4 squared, which is 16, and actually, excuse me, that's the negative of x squared, so let me just add that back in there, and so I actually get a negative 16, and then I have 4 times 5, so that's plus 20, and then minus my 5. Now that I've worked that portion out, I can distribute my negative. I'll bring my f of x down for the right, and actually I'll do a little bit more work on that. Basically, I've got 4 plus 4, so that's 8, minus 3, so that's 5, minus, and actually when I distribute my negative, this first one's not going to be a minus because I've got a minus 16, so it'll be a plus 16. I've got a minus positive 20, so I get minus 20, and I've got minus negative 5, so I have plus 5. Now when I put this all in my calculator, I'm going to get 6. Now going on to our second problem, we've got f of x times g of x. So to do that, we'll do similar to what we've been doing before, except for this time again I need to make sure that I keep my parentheses around f of x to protect its entire value. So I've got my f of x, and I'm going to multiply it by my g of x. Now when I do this type of problem, what I need to remember, again, when we added, I just had to protect things and I needed to distribute. This is similar to when we were distributing those negative signs, except for when I go through this sequence, I need to make sure that everything is multiplied by everything. And what I mean by that is my x squared, if I just look at my f of x portion, needs to be multiplied by negative x squared. It also needs to be multiplied by 5x, and it also needs to be multiplied by negative 5. And with that, I need to also add that with my negative 2, my positive 2x, which also needs to be multiplied by negative x squared. That positive 2x also needs to be multiplied by 5x, and my 2x also needs to be multiplied by -5, and all that also needs to be added up. And then I can't forget about my -3. It's got to also be multiplied by -x². It's also got to be multiplied by +5x, and my -3 is also got to be multiplied by -5. So this one's going to be a little bit of work, but when we get done, we'll have f of x times g of x. So to start out here, I'll have x² times -x². So I'll get a negative x, and I've got an x² and a -x². So since I can use my property of exponents, that'll actually be negative x to the 4th since they're being multiplied. Now if I go down my line, I'm going to get plus 5x cubed. I'm going to have a minus 5x squared minus 2x cubed plus 10x squared minus 10x plus 3x squared minus 15x plus 15. And all that comes from when I distribute out, here's everything that I multiplied by my x². So I have x² multiplied by -x². I've got x² multiplied by 5x, and I've got x² multiplied by my -5. I then moved over and I did my 2x multiplied by x². I've got my 2x multiplied by 5x, and I've also got my 2x multiplied by -5. My -3 multiplied by my x² gave me positive 3x². I had my -3 multiplied by 5x, which gave me -15x, and I got -3 multiplied by my -5, which gave me positive 15. So I've covered everything, and now again I can go through, find all my x to the 4th. I've only got one. Find all my cubes. I've got a couple of those. Look at my squareds. Look at my x values. And I've got one constant. So when I go ahead and add all those up, again I have my negative x to the 4th. I'm going to have a plus 3x to the 3rd. And again, that comes from combining my plus 5x to the 3rd minus my 2x from the 3rd. I'm going to have a plus 8x squared. That comes from my negative 5x squared, my plus 10 squared, and my plus 3x squared. And then I'm also going to have minus 25x. And that goes from my x values, minus 10x, minus 15x, and then I bring my plus 15 along for the ride. So f of x times g of x is negative x to the 4th, or the negative of x to the 4th, plus 3x to the 3rd, plus 8x squared, minus 25x plus 15. Now for our final problem, we've got f of x divided by g of x. Now, same thing as we've been doing before, we want our f of x minus 3, and we're going to divide that by our g of x. Now, at this point, you might want to start simplifying. But the way we have to look at this as a fraction is we can't kind of look at, well, we've got an x squared over a negative x squared, we've got a 2x over a 5x, and a minus 3 over a negative 5. I put the parentheses in to kind of reiterate this, but it's technically one thing, so we can't simplify it unless we had an actual negative x squared plus 5x minus 5. So for this one, we've got everything written out, and we are good to go.